like maybe you could talk about the origin story of naming your publication, what the goals are, who you're trying to help, who you're trying to reach, and kind of what you're working on right now.
Sure.
Mm.
Yeah. Firstly, thank you for the invitation to Substack Live. It's actually my first one ever.
Nice. This is only our second one, so
losing my Substack Live virginity right here.
Love to hear it.
So, Creative Thought Partner is the name of my business and my publication. So I'm a professional coach to people that want to make big transformations, either personally or professionally, through creative projects. My background is in art, so I did a bachelor's and a master's in fine art in London about 10 years ago. Found my way to writing through visual art. So I probably would identify myself as an artist who prefers to write currently. And that's what I'm really interested in helping other people do. So I've done... I worked at Rite of Passage on the core team before David closed the company down. That was Rite of Passage changed my life, and I really mean it in terms of giving me more confidence about what I could write about, a new awareness about how I could use writing, not just as a kind of way of building a business and writing things that people might find interesting, but actually just writing in a community. And it sounds cliche now because it's fairly commonplace to hear people talk about this, but it was new to me that you could actually use writing as a way to make new friends and build new business partnerships and relationships and collaborations. That was a real game changer for me. Since Rite of Passage just closed down, I've been leaning into my writing coaching and just more traditional sort of transformation coaching with people. And Creative Thought Partner was a name that my wife helped me come up with. I like it because it's simple, it's spellable, it does exactly what it says on the tin. The URL was available, believe it or not. CreativeThoughtPartner.com was available for like $6. I was like, what? So I bought that. I'm yet to switch my Substack over to it. But my Substack publication is where all of my thinking and sort of research gets shared. And I'll probably leave it there for now and say thank you again and hand over to you two to introduce yourselves.
That's amazing. I'll keep it short. Daniel Hunter started Indie Thinkers a very long time ago, put it on the shelf, took it off the shelf, put it back on the shelf. But it's really kind of a labor of love. I see it more as a community and leveraging Substack as a platform to build that community. And I think it's just like really fun to leverage like these kinds of tools to help build awareness for other people's work, like yourself, Harrison. It's Substack is incredible, but there's so many writers. It's hard to kind of cut through, right? And so I kind of see Indie Thinkers almost like a launch pad for writers to highlight pieces that they want more attention on. So if you're a writer writing like once a week, for example, and you put something together at any given time, and it really kind of speaks to you, and maybe there's a lot more engagement with it. You kind of want to throw like gasoline on the fire. Like then you can reach out to Indie Thinkers and say, hey, like I'd love to maybe double down on this topic and write a guest post, or I'd love to have an AMA like in the forum, and to like leverage a platform, like a protocol, like a tool to grow your brand. Because I think there are plenty of, individual writers and creators building their own verticals, but there aren't enough communities to help writers, to help elevate people that are trying to build their own, ecosystem ecosystems and their own platforms. And so, yeah, that's kind of the vision, and that's kind of the focus. Yeah.
Keeping it real fast, following that up, John Dotson. I'm all bought in on the indie thinkers process and thought process. I enjoy the Substack platform as a whole. Primarily, I write for several different things. Parental Notion being the primary one, which is a jumble of ideas, all my thoughts on being a dad and husband, and all the ways in which I try to excel at those titles. And then Indie Thinkers obviously being one of my other projects that I absolutely love, which really gravitates around the concept of spotlighting writers that I think are brilliant. And Seth had said it in our last live in regards to using people instead of algorithms. And I think algorithms are great at feeding us things that we like. I think people are better at feeding us things that we want to see and need to see. And so, I genuinely hope that we're able to do that consistently all the time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I like collaborating with really smart people. I think if I could do that as a full-time job consistently, I would be very happy. Be remiss to also say, I with my wife, we own a children's bookstore, children's book and art studio, more aptly. And so for me, seeing little creatives and then collaborating with big creatives is my favorite thing to do in the world. So yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, we'll dig in, man. So you mentioned Rite of Passage. For people that don't know Rite of Passage or the founder, David Perel, could you maybe give like a quick spiel on what it was, who David is, that kind of his impact on the creator economy, on like digital writers as a whole?
Yeah, sure. I'll do my best. I'll just prefacing it with the fact that I'll never do as good a job as David or the rest of the team, but I'll do my best. So I would summarize the Rite of Passage. It ran for 6 years. David and the team taught over 5,000 students, I believe, over 13 cohorts. It's arguably the most, if not the most impactful, it's probably the most famous writing school on the internet of the past 10 years, I would say, maybe ever. Really, I would say it was geared towards people who wanted to use writing, mostly non-fiction writing, although we did have some fiction writers involved as well. But it was, I would say, predominantly non-fiction writers who were very sort of excited and fulfilled by sort of operating in the world of ideas, I would say, and in trying to sort of record, explore, and encode those ideas in the written word. This is sort of this is pre-AI, right? Mm-hmm. And it was about, ultimately, I would say most people on the course were about trying to create new opportunities for themselves through writing, whether that was change identity, change job, build new relationships, build clubs, build followings, express themselves, become researchers. There was a whole host of people that took Rite of Passage. Over 70 countries represented. People came to it with lots of different goals, motivations, and styles. And it was the reason it was so impactful, I think, was because, first of all, it was a really world-class team that delivered a world-class curriculum. I've actually lost count of people who have said that it was the best cohort-based online program they've ever experienced in their life in terms of quality of delivery and sort of the depths that the team went to make the curriculum teachable and learnable. And David had this nice statement of, it's nothing like your 5th grade English class. And
I enjoyed my 5th grade English class, actually. Mrs. Barb was awesome. And she definitely inspired the writing.
Yeah, it was, you would have still been very welcome at Rite of Passage. And it was, and I think that was the secret. It was done in such a way that it was contemporary, highly learnable, highly teachable, and repeatable. and it had community at the center of it. And this was also, I think, one of the biggest reasons it succeeded and was so impactful for people. It really brought people together around a shared project, writing. And there's something about having a very specific project at the center of the community that helps to break down some of the cultural barriers that would otherwise exist. And people just made friends immediately. We all felt, despite our differences and uniqueness, that we were on a shared journey. That was what made it so good. And the final thing I'll say is that many success stories came out of it. So like I'm thinking, I mean, I've lost count. There's so many, and if I name some of them, I'll be leaving others out. But there were people who literally used Rite of Passage as a platform to build businesses, to become millionaires, to change shape in terms, professionally and personally, and really just carve out a life that was about a life worth living rather than just making a living. That's my lasting impression of it. I'm devastated it's no longer. I lost my job, but I lost so much more than that as well. So I'll be honest and say I'm still gutted that it's no longer, because it was brilliant. But yeah, I hope I've done a decent enough job of sort of explaining it for people who don't know what it is.
Well, I'm not.
No,
I know you don't want to name drop, but I'm going to name drop. So I think one of my favorite writers ever, Packy McCormick, was one of the first early students of Rite of Passage, and that's how I first learned about it. And Packy runs Not Boring, which is one of the biggest newsletters on Substack, and now his own venture capital arm and podcast, and it's just growing a media empire. But yeah, Jonathan, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I mean, I am unfortunate that I didn't hear about that sooner. One of the benefits of platforms like this is I hear about programs I would have absolutely loved to be a part of, especially as I rediscover that love of writing. That sounds like an extraordinary community. I'm interested to see kind of, I know the program has been, since stopped by David, but I'm fascinated by how it currently lives on. Because of the fact of immediately I'm thinking do you guys have a group? I'm sure a lot of you are on Substack now, right? Like you just mentioned, Daniel. So is there a oddly enough a Substack around writers who came from that program and are still aiming to encourage each other, and help? That would be awesome.
I'm low key trying to recreate the community aspect a little bit with indie thinkers.
I love that. Yeah,
I'm not going to be bashful there. So yeah.
I'm not aware of a Substack that has taken its place, but certainly there are two people whose work I can mention that were part of the original Rite of Passage team and kind of are doing very interesting and helpful things for non-fiction writers. One of them is Michael Dean. He runs the Substack, which is called Essay Architecture.
Ooh, so I love him. Okay.
Yeah.
I was Essay Architecture is I love his work.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Essay Architecture, the illustrations, I love it. I've tried to, because we do a lot of workshops with our bookstore, and especially focused on kids and teens. And one of the things I've really wanted to do is take his Essay Architecture and format that for teens, and really help them understand that writing can be truly enjoyable if you kind of build as your own platform essentially around it, your own methodology and thought process. So, but yeah, I digress. Of course, he came from such a program. That's amazing.
yeah, and he wasn't. Michael Dean wasn't only a student. He was the editor in chief. So he was instrumental in helping to shape the curriculum, and he's always done really interesting things in and for the community. And so Essay Architecture is Michael's personal Substack, but I know that many alumni of Rite of Passage have joined his private community, which I think runs gyms and so workshops and things like that that sort of are similar to what we did at Rite of Passage. The second person is Michael Sklar, and that's Sklar with a K, Sklar. And again, Michael was an OG alumni from back in the day. and he has a Substack, the name of which I can't remember right now. I'm really sorry, Michael, but I'm pretty sure you'll find him. He's got a unique name, and I know that he's running a community that's helping writers as well in various different ways. And if I can allow myself a very quick humble brag, I also welcome anybody that was part of Rite of Passage or beyond to subscribe to my Substack. And my goal with it really is to think about the creative process broadly, but the writing process more specifically. Figure out how to do it well, and most importantly, how to enjoy it. And this obviously takes me in different directions research wise, but my current area of focus research wise is on the role that constraints can play in creativity. And I'll finish off just by saying that my working hypothesis for my research at the moment is that we're all, I can only speak for myself. I'm incredibly lucky to have been born into this culture that gives me unbridled freedom, right? I can write about whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want, in any way that I want. And that's an incredible privilege that many people that lived before me had to fight to win. And so I want to honor it. At the same time, it can be incredibly overwhelming and paralyzing to have no constraints at all. And so my current research is centering around the role that constraints play, and I have kind of a hunch that if we want to learn how to write well and enjoy it, things like talent, imagination, networks, communities, and resources are important. But I think not something that not enough people are talking about are constraints. And I think my big bet is that if we can become a student of constraints, learn how to configure the right type and the right degree of constraints around a writing project, then the work will feel inevitable. Like we'll have to be held back from doing it. It'll be that easy. That's kind of like my big bet. So
good, Harrison. There's a whole discussion just around constraints that I could go into, man. That's so good.
Yeah. Well, I'm at the very beginning. I'm at the very beginning of my research journey. I don't have any of the answers yet, but I'm interviewing people. I'm setting up experiments. I'm trying to impose constraints on my own life and see what works, what doesn't. And it's really, really interesting. I'm genuinely obsessed with it, borderline obsessed at the moment. So we'll see where it goes. But the Rite of Passage lives on in lots and lots of WhatsApp groups. I know that David and the team decided to keep the Circle platform open for us. So I frequently go back there and get back in touch with people. So that was really, really generous of them to do that. And honestly, Substack feels it has the same type of buzz and excitement at the center of it, at least from where I'm sitting. And so for me, if Substack didn't exist, I'd probably feel a lot more heartbroken about the disappearance of the Rite of Passage community. And I'm so glad that Substack is there.
Yeah. I'll just touch on this quickly. Someone in the chat asked, why did Rite of Passage end? And I don't want to speak for David on this, obviously. I haven't seen an interview or anything where he was directly asked that question and he gave his thoughts. So I'm not sure if he's spoken about this publicly, but my sense was that it was just a ton of work, and he really wanted to pursue a lot of things as an individual writer and creator, and wanted to spend less time running an operation. That was my sense. I think he thrives off of creating, and I'm assuming was spending a lot of time in operations and kind of playing a CEO role, and that might have been part of the reason why he wanted to end it. I know a lot of people have mentioned, well, why couldn't you just appoint a CEO and keep it going? So that's a whole rabbit hole we could go down. But I just want to bring that up quickly. I don't know, Harrison, if you have seen David talk about this publicly or.
I know that David has tweeted about this. Okay. At the time, he wrote a in-depth, very honest tweet, and I'm sure you can find it. And I won't speak for him. My impression was that the guy did 6 years of this, 13 cohorts, right? This was not a flash in the pan. This was like an incredible achievement. And we've talked already about many of the success stories that came out of it. And I think your instinct is right. I think like David's clearly a very creative, ambitious guy, and he had other things he wanted to move on to. And so, I mean, I ran a business myself for 6 years, and it nearly killed me, literally. So I can fully understand why somebody would want to move on. And I think actually there's not enough. I don't think people talk enough about endings, right? Mm-hmm. This might be a different conversation. But I was speaking to Mike Soden. He writes Everything is Amazing newsletter, okay. And he said he put out a thing saying, "Hey, I want to talk to people." So I signed up and had a half an hour conversation with him. And one of the many things that Mike said, which inspired me, was like he was talking about endings being really, really important to allow you to take stock, to allow you not to be overwhelmed by a project, and to allow you to sort of move on and learn, take with you what you've learned and do something else. And I thought, wow, like it's so rare to hear somebody talk about endings, especially on the internet, right? And I think that actually maybe there's a part of me that, as much as I'm devastated about losing my job, there's a part of me that thinks maybe Rite of Passage was made even more special by the fact that it did come to an end.
I think there's a lot to be said there, and agreed. Probably definitely a whole other live conversations. But internet projects tend to either end poorly, in my opinion, or end beautifully. And I've not seen it in between. It's either, it's dead in the water, or it is a beautiful ending where everyone in the community feels like the story ended great, or, there's no middle ground. But especially, I think there's so much there. I went to this, there's another newsletter called 3 and 3, and it's a designer newsletter. They have these Zoom calls, and they have like designers sharing research projects, and one of them was kind of just the mortality of a project, like really discussing the concept of how do you design and what assets do you give away, like how do you foster, like how do you make the end of your app the beginning of someone else's, and or just the end of your project the beginning of someone else's, and how like the community that you built that led to that ending, eventually, right? Like what do you do with that, and how do you foster that and foster those in the community? There's so much to be said there. I love that topic as a whole and want to explore it in so much depth. But yeah,
you just reminded me of that scene in American Gangster with Denzel, when the guy says to him, "Quitting while you're ahead is not the same as quitting." And so I fucking love that line.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
Yeah, that's so good, dude. Yeah. See, Harrison, man, Jonathan, Harrison and I, we just vibe for like.
I love it.
For forever. We can go down so many different paths, and Harrison, we'll definitely have you back. So, I did want to dive into the main topic. We could talk about so many things, but I'm just going to read the quote from David Perell. And again, this is from a 90-minute video that David posted recently about writing with AI and his thoughts on where we're headed and AI's impact on writing. And we'll link it in the Substack post. But if you go to David Perell's YouTube channel, I'm certain you'll find it quickly. Here's the quote. The only thing that's going to matter is going to be the objective quality of a piece of writing. I think in 10 to 15 years, that is the only thing that'll matter. Just as when I walk into a club or some bar and I hear a song, I don't care how it was made. I don't care who made it. All I care about is this song a vibe? I think it's going to be the same with writing. I don't care if AI wrote it for you. I don't care if AI wrote it with you. I don't care if you wrote it by yourself. End quote.
Ooh.
A lot to unpack there. Curious, Harrison, if you watched the video, what do you think about the quote?
I haven't seen the video, but now you've made me want to find that and watch it. Gosh, I mean, you sent me this quote ahead of time and it gave me some time to think about it. And I went for a walk this afternoon, just a short walk, and just trying to sort of like think about how I feel about it, what I think, and what you know. There's quite a few different layers to it, actually, and. But I think the first thing I want to say, I just want to be really, really honest. And like sort of the first thing I want to say is like, I found myself wanting to before I got into it critically, I found myself wanting to like just take a step back and look at the sort of context in which this information, this idea was shared and stuff like that. And I think like I haven't spoken to David or anyone else at Rite of Passage about it, by the way. So these are my own thoughts and feelings only. But like the first thing that struck me was that whenever I see language like that uses sort of absolutes, right? Like everyone, no one, always, never. That to me is always a signal to approach it with a grain of salt and acknowledge that it's language that is out to grab attention and be impactful and powerful and to get people to talk, right? So I think any conversation we have about it should be couched in that broader awareness that you know, like David was clearly trying to put a certain message out there and he wanted people to respond to it and talk about it, and here we are talking about it,
right.
So that was the first thing that I thought. The second thing that my mind went to who are the kinds of people that are going to feel, whose feathers are going to be ruffled by this. And like I don't have the answers to that question. Like, did it ruffle my feathers? It kind of didn't that much, because and I think there's a few reasons for that. One is that I don't actually agree with the statement in its entirety. I think it won't matter to some people some of the time, but I think it's not that black and white. I think there'll always be people that for whom it does matter, right? Both readers and writers, and so that led me to think about the idea from both perspectives. First, from the perspective of a writer, and then perspective of a reader. And it's like, from the perspective, let's start with perspective of a reader. Like I currently feel like when I'm reading something and I get the whiff that it's been written completely with AI, I personally, as a reader, I do feel disappointed at the moment. I feel like I want to. I see writing as an extension of talking, or thinking, sorry, and talking. So it's all one, really. It's thoughts, it's words, it's communication, it's encoded messages. And so when I read something by somebody, especially by somebody that I admire or somebody that excites me, I'm disappointed when I can tell they've written it by AI, because I don't feel like I'm reading them. I feel like I'm reading them plus ChatGPT. Now, I actually agree with the message David wrote about like that's probably going to change in time, right? Like I'm probably going to soften.
Yeah.
I'm anticipating that I won't feel like that forever. I used to work in construction, and if you tried to confiscate an electrician's cordless drill, right, and say do your job without your drill, he or she would bite your head off and snatch the drill back. But when drills came out 50 years ago, most construction workers were up in arms about the death of their industry, in much the same way that people are about AI today. So I actually think that I probably will soften, and I probably will come to a compromise in my head of that, between.
I'm going to interject really quickly. That anecdote, that story you just shared, I think is a clear example, exhibit A, of why I think there will still and always be value in human writing is like the references to lived experience, right?
Mm.
What lived experience has
Mm.
an AI model had?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is what will still matter. Is like if you're writing an essay about, the creator economy, right? You can today use models to generate something that you might not be able to tell was written by AI. It could be a masterful essay, right? You might not be able
Yeah.
to get a whiff of it, like you said, right? You might not
Yeah.
be able to tell, right?
Yeah.
But the same essay with anecdotes pointing back to someone's lived experience is going to hit differently.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Mm.
going back to David's point about, is it a vibe? Like, how do you define a
Uh,
vibe, right? I define
can we just
it
take a
as like
moment? The word
anecdotes.
vibe
Well, yeah, I know.
is killing me lately, but I digress. We're
But
good to
yeah,
go. But yes.
just wanted to share, like, I think that's what will still like matter, and what even David will still find more valuable is like being able to see like the lived experience, and that can take many forms. It can just be a quick reference to something you've done in the past. It could be documenting how you created something,
Mm.
right? Your
Mm-hmm.
process, exposing how you got to an end. Maybe the products and the value is more about the journey that you took and not just the end result. If the end result becomes like easily repeatable and becomes quote unquote less valuable, like how you got there maybe is the true value, right? Like not the essay itself, but how your process for creating it and your what do they call it? Reasoning trace, right? Um, and seeing your thought tokens, right?
Yeah.
Uh, right? Like that will still be really valuable.
I think it's at least for me, it's really important that I separate the experience of the writer writing it and the experience of the reader reading it, because they are two very different phenomena, to use a wanky word. And from the perspective of the reader, like I think another reason that I probably will just accept that everyone's writing with AI and it's okay, right? Eventually, is that I was thinking about the metaphor David used in that quote about music, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, what's interesting is, I was thinking about this. I was like, yeah, that's so true. That I love electronic music, particularly like house music. I've done a little bit of DJing in the past as well, and I've mixed some songs, right, and recorded that stuff. And what's interesting is, like, I always used to think years ago when I was out clubbing more often, like, isn't it interesting that DJs get more respect than producers almost, even though the DJ is just beat matching two records. And all right, it's in a
Oh
club.
no, yeah.
Everyone's wasted. They've got all the theatrics, and DJs are cool, aren't they? Right? There they are, standing over the crowd in this sort of like almost like sadomasochistic way with their decks and their equipment, and you're thinking, yeah, right. But what's interesting is, like, unless it's almost like DJs get more respect than the actual people that make the music, and what gives this analogy even more kind of interest or color is that if you look at the best DJs in the world, like the top DJs that are like killing it in Ibiza and making millions of dollars, I challenge anybody to find one of those DJs that doesn't also produce their own music, right? It's very, very rare, almost maybe even it's more than rare, for a DJ to rise and become a world-leading DJ without making their own music. And yet, as a crowd on the dance floor, when we're in the mix, when we're in that moment coming up, we don't give a shit about the producer. We care about the DJ, and all they're doing is just pressing a few knobs and turning a few Twizzlers, aren't they? Let's face it. So I think it's entirely possible that human beings could just eventually get to the point where they just forgive writers for using AI. It's just an extra tool in the toolbox. I do believe that. But I think to shift perspective for a moment and go on to the experience of the writer now. This is very different, right? As a writer, again, I can only speak for myself. I happen to be a massive nerd with writing. Like, I love it. I can't stop doing it. I'm doing it when I should be doing other things. It gets me in trouble sometimes. And what I love about it is so multifaceted. I like George Orwell's book. He's got this really short book called Why I Write. I recommend it to anybody that's interested in writing. It's a non-fiction book. And Orwell talks about, beyond making a living, there are 4 things that he thinks every writer has, like 4 different motivations that every writer has in different degrees. One is like sheer egoism, right? Just the desire to be known, to be remembered. The second is a kind of historical impulse, like some people want to like preserve things and put them in the right order and make sure they don't get forgotten about, right? The third one is just like pure aesthetic pleasure of language, of words. I'm thinking of poets, I'm thinking of prose writers. And then the fourth one is like is impact, like social or political impact. People want to change how others think or how they behave. And like, I think about that and I'm like, yes, fucking yes, right? Like, thank you, George Orwell, for giving me a practical framework for understanding why writing is so just delicious to me as a craft, because thankfully I'm able to make a living with it through coaching, and that's taken a while, but I'm finally getting there. So that gets a tick. Egoism, dude, I'm the biggest egoist in the world. I spend all day thinking about my own ideas, my own shit, trying to solve my own problems. I mean, anybody that says a writer isn't egotistical is lying, or they're deluded. So egoism, like I get so much satisfaction from writing because it feeds my ego in so many ways. Aesthetic pleasure is really important for me. I do love getting lost in a poetic paragraph. I'm like, how did they do that, right? Historical impulse, that's not very high for me. That might be something I should work on. I don't read much history. I'm a bit ignorant of many things that happened in the past, so which actually I think disqualifies me from having an opinion on what's going to happen in the future. But like, so historical impulse, that's probably a 1 out of 10.
Absolutely love that.
But the social impact for me, of course, I want to have an impact. Of course I do. That's why I like coaching people, because it's really impactful. So for me, AI ain't going to change any of that stuff. And actually, you might argue, well, you might be able to go even deeper on the aesthetics if you train an LLM to like write like you or thought partner with you. And my argument to that is like, yeah, that'll work for some people, but for people like me that just absolutely can't stop doing the craft, asking AI to write for you is like Picasso asking someone else to paint for him. No, I'm not likening myself to Picasso by any stretch, but I'm just saying, like, for me as a writer, this point David's making is a little bit moot. But I think it's entirely relevant and worth talking about if you're a reader. If we're talking about the experience of the reader, I think it becomes a bit more relevant then.
I think that's when it becomes even more important for you to have your content filtered through friends and associates and community than algorithm, because I think algorithm will enable those who aren't writing to be writers, but writing to produce content and produce, easily things that feed the algorithm and feed the content chain. Things that easily catch fire, things that are easily digestible, that don't make you have to think twice or struggle with like how do they creatively lay those prose to make it like make me question so many things. Like those things aren't picked up by the algorithm, right? And so yeah, I think ultimately with even that quote as a whole, I think it speaks more to a broader sense of those who consume written content and are just like, I would probably just buy the Amazon book that looks like it was made by ChatGPT. Sure, I don't care. I saw it on TikTok. And so enabling yourself to be around other people who are just like, now I kind of filter out all that stuff, and I'm looking for writers who are actually thinking and who enjoy the process. And yeah, they might use AI as a thought partner, and help correct some grammar things or flow, or just don't care about grammar at all, and just enjoy that process, and make sure they're getting their thoughts across, is going to be even more prevalent. But yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
I think just to add one more thing to what Daniel said earlier about the emergent importance of like personal anecdotes and idiosyncratic stories that an AI just cannot have, right? Real human things, real objects, real people, real events. Like those are the things that people are going to start looking for if they're in the cohort of people that really do care about human writing. And actually, maybe, again, this is me hypothesizing when I'm definitely unqualified to do so, but I can see a version of the world where, because of AI, writers who do want to be read and want to be received as a human writer, right? It might force them to get better and better and better about at writing personal stories, anecdotes, bringing us along on anecdotes and stories that only you can tell. And to me, that's a good outcome. Like, because that is an amazing, that is a really hard skill set that contains so many other skills within it. And it's like, if AI brings some of us closer together through the written word in that way, man, sign me up for that, because I absolutely love it when I come across an essay that's like, smart and insightful and philosophical 1 minute, and then bang, suddenly you're into like some crazy ass story of them in the supermarket having a fight with the checkout clerk, and you're just there with them, and you're like, fuck, that was so unexpected and specific. And like, of course an AI can't do that, but it makes that person more relatable, and it gives you license to do the same.
Yes. Agreed. I'm all for that, 100%. If that's what we're getting to, is allowing people to be more personal, because to your point, Daniel, AI can't do that. It doesn't have fights in the supermarket. It sits on a server. It's fed our stories about fights in the supermarket. It understands that that's appealing to us, and it can poke you to kind of like bring out more personality into your piece. But yeah.
And then the dialogue that comes, after someone reads about your story in the supermarket, right? Like, being able to have a conversation with the author. That's the beauty of the internet. That's the beauty of Substack and forums and spaces online where you can engage with the author, with the storyteller, and say, hey, man, like, I had a similar experience, and you can go back and forth. And that's a different experience than chatting with, a model, alone in your apartment, So,
I just want to call somebody else out, a friend of mine who I'm learning a lot from, and who's sort of like, in my opinion, he's like the world heavyweight champion of doing this type of personal writing really well. His name's Michael Thompson. He wrote a book called Shy by Design. It's really good. And I did Michael's workshop recently about personal storytelling, and been on a few calls with him, and we've shoot the shit about this. And like, the thing that was really surprising to me was like, Michael challenged me to just write a personal story. It doesn't have to have an insight baked into it. Just tell us a story that happened to you and tell us how it felt, right? And I was like, I went away for a few weeks, and I was, brainstorming and all this shit that I do. And I just couldn't pick a story, and in the end I went back to see him, and I had some ideas, and he was just like, dude, what happened the first day you met your wife? And I was like, and I told him, we were at art school together in different classes, and one day our class got put into her class, and we had to watch them present their work, and there was my future wife. She's presented her work, and there was something about her and her work that I really liked, and so I went up to her at the end and said, hey, do you want to work together? Do you want to make a piece of art together? And then we made some art together for sort of 3 or 4 weeks, and And when it finally came to me kissing her for the first time, she was shocked because she thought we were just collaborating on art together, right? So I was just telling Michael, and he just sat back in his chair and he was like, write that fucking story. And I was like, but, it hasn't got an insight. It hasn't got this. It hasn't got that. It's not. And he was like, it doesn't need it.
There's
he was
no
like,
list at the bottom of it.
Yeah. And it was really refreshing to be told by somebody that's like much further along that road than I am, that actually what people want now is just a universal story that they can relate to, and everybody can relate to first date stories. And I thought, so this shit doesn't even have to be complicated. It's like the stories that people are going to resonate with, we already have them. We just have to look inside ourselves, get past the intellectual bullshit and say, what's something that's happened to me that I can speak about, and just talk about how I felt. Like, that's enough. That is definitely enough. Of course, you still have to learn how to be a good storyteller, but that's learnable. That's learnable.
That's so true, man. I love it. And yeah, I'm familiar with Michael, and he's incredible. I still need to read that book, by the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know we're pushing an hour. Harrison, can you let everyone know, like, what's coming with Creative Thought Partner? You know, what's kind of the value prop for being a paid subscriber? You know, what are you excited about the rest of the year?
Sure. So I'll just repeat a couple of things for anybody that joined after the start. So I'm a professional coach. I work with people that want to make, that want to work on their scariest, most important creative projects that are going to help them sort of change and transform in a personal or professional capacity. I like working one-on-one with people. So I have a one-on-one coaching practice, and I only work with so many people so that I can go deep with them, and I like to go deep. And besides that, I have a Substack publication, Creative Thought Partner. Most of the stuff's free because I just like experimenting a lot with different styles, different forms. So I write mostly about creativity broadly, but more specifically about the writing process and how writing can actually be a springboard to change in your life. Paid subscribers get access to a particular series where I actually use Loom videos to go super X-ray deep on clients' drafts and talk about strategic and tactical ways they can improve their writing. A lot of those skills I learned at the Rite of Passage as their dedicated mentor. So I do that. And then the other thing that paid subscribers get is there's a monthly gym or workshop where we get together and we share projects we're doing. It's fluid in concept. Like there tends to be a theme. It changes every month. And the final thing I will say is that my research is centering on the role that constraints play in creativity. It's my thesis that as writers, the biggest problem we face is overwhelming possibility. And the thing that's going to help us make quality work and enjoy that work is not necessarily talent or tools. It's actually learning how to impose just the right amount of constraints around our writing projects. So I might be writing a book about this. I might be doing a course. Something significant is going to come out of the research, but I don't want to name that yet because I'll end up ruining my enthusiasm for it. So I'm just leaving it open at this stage. But I'm very keen. I'll leave it at this. I'm very keen to talk to anybody that's writing nonfiction that feels paralyzed by the possibilities of what to write about and how to write about it. If that's you, please DM me. I want to interview you. I've got a bunch of questions. I'm interviewing 10 writers at the moment, and there'll be more needed. And I'm learning so much from different writers about how they experience that problem, because whilst we all have that problem, everyone experiences it differently, and it's so fascinating how.
That's awesome. I love it, man. And I didn't tell you this yet, Harrison, but I will be joining the paid subscription membership today. Super excited to support your work. I think you're brilliant.
Thank you.
You're doing incredible stuff. And yeah, I think it might be a good ending point. Really appreciate you hanging out, and we'll do this again, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we have like 3 different parts from just the conversations we've had.
Yes.
definitely, multiple things want to get into. Yeah, but no,
I
this
could
is fantastic.
I could talk about this all day. Can I risk a dark sincerity as a writer? I actually think there are certain ideas that are better off just spoken about in person than trying to write about.
Agreed.
So
Absolutely agreed. I think to your point in regards to like the technical bullshit, right? Like there are certain things that we get into when you're writing where you're just like, you can't help it, but like fluff starts coming into the writing, right? Like if, to quote the fifth grade English teacher, sometimes you're just trying to put words on a page, and it's through conversation, like the simplest ideas come out in like the most genuine way. Like the conversation we had with Seth a week ago in regards to like you get on a live, you have no idea what's going to happen. This can go terribly wrong, or you can say like the most insightful things ever that normally would have been crowded by like fluff because of the blank page. So yeah, no, absolutely agreed.
there's something about being on stage. Something about being on stage that it just activates different parts of your brain where you're like, I can't fuck this up, and I've got to choose my words a bit more carefully and put a bit more energy into it, and somehow you end up performing differently, if not better, in a way that is really hard to do with writing. And I think it's okay. I think it's okay to say, like, some types of some messages, some ideas are not suitable or I shouldn't say not suitable, but they are more suited to certain forms. I think that's okay to say that. And I think
agreed.
I've definitely fallen into the trap personally as a budding writer of thinking that like everything must be written about, and it's like, nah, not necessarily.
Nope, agreed.
Well, we'll try and get the Substack engineers to elevate Substack Live to the desktop.
It'd be easier.
Yeah.
Hopefully, because this has drained my battery.
Yeah, my arm is aching. My arm's aching so much. I'm getting like pins and needles. I've got pins and needles in my hand, Substack. Shit.
This has been great.
All right, well, thanks, guys, and we'll talk soon, Harrison.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Bye.
See you guys.
How do I hang up?
You have to hit the X.